Hey there, and welcome to the Jeffrey Van Dyke Show, a podcast for paradigm changers. Each week I speak with another influential leader who's changing the conversation for their audience, their industry, and this world. I am so glad you're here. Welcome to the show. You're the founder of Sinclair Model Management and Models of Diversity, a modeling agency which promotes greater diversity in the fashion, beauty, and media industries, where people of minority ethnic origin, older people, larger and smaller people, people with a disability, and non-binary gender people are underrepresented. It is brilliant to have you here. You were born in East London. You're a mother of 4. You have 8 grandkids. And you've been running Models of Diversity for over 10 years. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I just want to state that a lot of people get confused by the work that I do. I want to just stress, we are a registered charity. Part of our work that we do is about working with clothing brands and to get them to use more diverse models to represent their consumers. So people sometimes get us with confused and think we're a modeling agency. No, we're not. But part of our work is helping, if we speak to a brand, what we say to them, if they say, well, we don't get disabled models, come to our castings. And what we do, we say, well, we've got a community. Can we send you their images? And can they come along to your casting? So that's part of the work that I've been doing now for the past 10 years. And I really enjoy it. It's very, very rewarding.
Yeah, awesome. I'm just curious about that for starters. Were you always a registered charity, or were you a for-profit business and then became a registered charity?
We were just, in the beginning, a campaign, non-profit. And then about 5 years ago, I decided to make it into a registered charity because purely part of the reason was that I was doing this on my own and I was running out of money fast. And because I was plunging a lot of my own personal funds into it. So in order to become a registered, in order to get funding, I then decided it's time that I turn it into a charity. And the fact that the numbers on social media, the people that wanted to work with the charity, it was growing. So it just made sense. The two came together. But I'm really glad how I started Mod. It's a story.
So let's start there. You were on Gok Wan's Miss Naked Beauty in 2008.
I was the oldest contestant. I was in my late 40s and I got spotted by the show because I would say I was more of an amateur model, an aspiring model. And they found me on a modeling website. And at first, I thought it was a joke, but I went for the audition and I got it straight away. They said, we got to have you in this show because it was I think what it was that attracted them is that it was my personality. It was the fact that I was saying all the right things. I was proud of being the age that I was at the time. And the fact that I actually said that we need to see more women my age take part in shows like this. So I got through. I got down to the last 12. I did a couple of series and it just went from there. After the show, being around a diverse range of women, and I mean, some of these women were models, but a lot of them were just the general public.
Yeah.
And just seeing women of all different shapes and sizes and women that I would never have seen in billboard campaigns or anything like that. Plus size women, LPs, little people, disabled people, women with stretch marks over their bodies, women that had scarring. I mean, never seen that before. So after the show, I remember saying to Gokwan, do you know what? I really want to do something about this. I really want to make a change. And he said to me, Angel, go for it. And that's how I remember sitting at my kitchen table and just trying to come up with a name. And I just was thinking diversity, models of diversity. And that's how it started.
Yeah, awesome. I'm just curious about that for starters. Were you always a registered charity, or were you a for-profit business and then became a registered charity?
We were just in the beginning a campaign,
Uh-huh.
non-profit. And then about 5 years ago, I decided to make it into a registered charity because purely part of the reason was that I was doing this on my own and I was running out of money fast. Covered up a lot. And on that show, they made me wear a bikini and I had to stand up on stage. And that, I'll be honest with you, that was so liberating for me that I wanted to make other women, other models feel the same way I felt on that stage.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. That's actually one of the things I was going to ask you is what have you seen? We'll talk about the industry here in a minute, but I was thinking about just the models themselves. And like one of the things I consider all the people I work with, what we're up to in the world is being liberators. And I'm always asking people, hey, what are you a liberator of? And who are you a liberator for? And when I was thinking about you and these models, what have you seen their transformation be as they get cast, as they go on casting calls, as they are on a catwalk, as they do the work? What are some of the changes you've seen for them?
Okay. Once the campaign, this is before we got into become a charity, started to unfold and people started to say, yes, we agree with you. Because one of the things that I did, I went outside London Fashion Week at one of their high profile shows. And I had these banners that were saying, no to size zero. We need to see more diversity on at London Fashion Week. And once I started to do that, the British Fashion Council called me in to see me because they could see I was becoming a threat to them because people were taking my leaflets and coming out of these shows saying, do you know what? You're making a point. Some of these models look really ill. And funny enough, I didn't see a black model. And where are the curvy models? So they called me in. Anyway, part of my work was that I thought, right, in order to keep up the momentum, I had to find somebody that was willing to teach women that want to become models how to model properly and what steps they need to take to not only look after themselves at castings or working with photographers, but also how to brand themselves. So I found an amazing gentleman. His name is James Lyon, and he's now one of our directors and he works with us. And we put together this workshop for aspiring models, people that are thinking about getting in this industry. And I will tell you from these workshops, there are at least 4 or 5 people that's gone through them, that's gone and made a name for themselves big time. And when I see that, it makes me really proud of the work that they're doing. People that have come through our workshops, that have gone out there now and used the tools that they learned to go out there and get castings, to work with photographers, who's walked in. There's so many models that it's just too many over the past 10 years that have walked in London Fashion Week, that's walked in fashion shows, been in magazine. You got to remember this is 10 years. So for me, it shows that my workshops work.
Yeah.
And that we are here to support. We never, part of the work that I do and the motto that I stand by is that whoever comes to us, we must not crush their dreams. I'm not into crushing anybody's dream, because who may not look attractive to me or may not be a model potential to me might be the right fit for somebody else. So I try and help as many people as I can. I'm not going to crush anybody's dreams. Every email that comes through, my team know, no matter how small, respond, because a lot of young girls, a lot of women that contact these modeling agencies, they don't get a reply. And I know how disheartening that can be. It's for them, they take it as a rejection. They feel that they're not good enough. Whereas with me, if I'm not able to support them, I find a way or find another organization that can. So that is what MOD's about. We're not here, and we encourage people that male and female, even if they get turned away, part of my job is to encourage them to keep going forward. There's somebody out there. And what I say to them is, there's a big world out there. If the UK don't want you, maybe another country will. Hit everywhere that you can, because somebody will want you. And that is the motto that I follow.
I love it. I love it. I love your spirit.
My spirit, my spirit and the way that I am, I put it to, I feel that this is it's my faith, it's my calling from my higher power. And he's kept me going for the past 10 years. So yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. Like, one of the things that most of the folks I work with all have a common experience of, yeah, this is my calling. And there is some sort of higher power that is guiding them, that lights the way, that says, call this person, open that door, go here, don't go there. I'm curious, like, what's your journey been around following that voice? How does that voice come to you? Like, how do you hear it? How do you discern it? Has there been times when it's been really difficult to follow, or times when it's like, oh no, this is beautiful? And like, what's that journey been like for you?
All I can say is that I grew up in a religious family. My mother was Catholic, my stepfather was Seventh Day Adventist. So religion in my upbringing played a big part. And once I left home and stuff, I still believed in God, but I didn't go to church. And over the years, before I did MOD years, I believe, for me, that God or higher power of anybody's understanding help me to get to where I am today, because I shouldn't be alive today. If I hadn't have listened to what God had told me to do at the time, I wouldn't be here today. I suffered for 10 years. This is way before mod, as a chronic alcoholic. I cannot tell you how low I got. I got so low that I went to my doctors, and my pancreas, I mean, I was near death door. And he said to me, if you don't get sober and you don't go into get help, you'll be dead in 6 months. Because I was in and out of hospital for I would have, there was always a consequence with my alcoholism, and which ended with me being brought to the emergency room. And that day, when he said that to me, I knew I had to, because if I didn't, my children would be left without a mother. And I always say that it was my higher power that got me to that place. And I use my faith in my work. Do I believe my higher power talks to me? Yes. And I will tell you how it works for me. I'll give you one example. The pandemic happened, and a lot of charities were badly hit. Our funding, we were down to maybe what you would call $100
Mm-hmm.
in our account. And I started to panic, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to pay anybody. I laid off staff. How am I going to survive? What am I going to do? And I remember it came into my head like this. Get in contact with Tommy Hilfiger, email all of his companies around the world, and explain to them your dilemma, which I did. The next day, I got an email back from their branch in the Netherlands, and they said to me, we would like to help you. We are going to donate. It was about, I'd say it was at least 15 to 20 grand worth of merchandise for you to sell at whatever cost so that you can make money. I was gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked. And I tell you what, they also sent over their adaptive range, which we couldn't get in the UK. We couldn't get it for love or money. And when those boxes came, I'm telling you, we started selling the clothes, that we started getting funds in. And I thought, oh, this is good. So I started contacting other brands that I worked with. And the funny thing is, they all donated clothes. I was like, God, thank you. Another incident that happened during lockdown, which I know is the power of God, I reached out to an organization, I know they're very big in the States, called Stonewall. You heard of Stonewall, the LGBT?
Absolutely.
And they've also got Stonewall UK. So I contacted the UK and I said the same thing, who I am. And I said, do you know what? I explained to them that we get a lot of transgenders and people who are going through their transition get in contact with us and they want to get into fashion. And I was saying to them, let's work. Can we do something together in support of these people? Fast forward a couple of months. We have now, they said yes, but they didn't know how we were going to do it. I then reached out to one of the world's top photographers named, have you heard of Rankin?
Absolutely.
I reached out to him and I told him what I wanted to do. At first, I was getting blanked emails, but something in my spirit said, you got to keep on. So every week I was emailing. In the end, he said, okay, we'll have a Zoom chat. Ranking, I had a Zoom chat with him. And to cut a long story short, we have done the most. I can't say too much because it's actually going to be going out in the press next week. We have done this beautiful project together, models of diversity, Stonewall, and ranking.
Oh, wow.
Once again, so when talking about the calling, coming back to the calling, when I feel something in my spirit, even when I think, nah, that ain't gonna work, I go with it because I know that it's either it's my higher power, something is talking to me and is driving me to do it. So I do believe some people call it intuition, some people, you know, people's got different names for their higher power. And for me, it's about having a spiritual belief, whatever religion you're in. So yes, that for me, it is for me personally, it is important because A, it's the thing that keeps me sober. B, it's the thing that keeps me going to help me to continue doing the good work that I do. So yeah.
I would add C, and it's a thing that keeps opening new doors that you wouldn't have thought of.
Yes, it is the thing. And when people, but at the same time, you know, I will say that people that are not religious, they still have that can still have that feeling that they call it the gut feeling when they know something is right or if something is not wrong or if something comes to them. Hence why I try, it's very important for me that whoever gets into contact with us and whatever experiences that they've had in the industry, I'm talking about the ones that are negative, that we are there to encourage them and tell them, don't give up your dreams. Have you thought of this or that? Or and we are there to support them. So that is important.
Yeah. I love you sharing that. You know, so many in my experience, the almost always the times when there's been magic in my life and in my work has been when I've gotten those little nudges and it's like, really? Do that? Huh? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't, I can't necessarily see the path, but something in my being knows it's right, and one of the things my guidance always says is that we are here to help tell humanity's new story.
Absolutely.
And the new story doesn't live necessarily from the consciousness we've experienced. We have to tap into something bigger than us, where the new story is emerging. And I love that you're part of telling the new story of models and of fashion and of representation in the media.
Absolutely. It is important. And, I did something in 2011 that was never done in the UK. I put on the first plus size fashion show. I flew it. Once again, this my higher power came into play because I had no budget. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but all I knew is that it's got to happen. And I managed to fly in with the help of people that I reached out to I flew in Robin Lawley, who is an international supermodel in the US. I flew into Cora Jones, who was in American Top Model. I flew in Lizzie Miller as well. And they all came in and took part of the show. I did an audition with just not models, with just plus size women that came and took part in that runway show. And we had press, we had celebrities that came along, and it was a huge success. And from the back of that show, then we started to see other organizations, other groups that started to do plus size fashion week, and it just took off. You have the individual groups that do curvy fairs, that have plus size pageants. So, things grow from that. So
Yeah.
that was a really, really big deal for us at Mod.
I love that you say that, because I think paradigm changers often, we're out there with a machete paving a new path. Because it reminds me, I had another guest, Neil Godfrey, who kind of pioneered the work around teaching kids about money, financial literacy for kids. And she told me the story about, she went to these 3 bookstores with her kids saying, hey, do you have kids books around money? And they're like, no, there's none. Right. And after the 3rd one, her daughter looks up at her and says, Mommy, you should write it, and she's like, I'm not going to write it. And her daughter says, are you scared, Mom?
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, you got me. I'm writing it. And she went to, I think, HarperCollins. She went to a big publishing house and said, here's the manuscript. And they said, there's no market for this. And she said, how do you know? And they said, because there's no books around kids and money. And she said, that doesn't mean there's not a market. It means that nobody's written it yet. And she ended up having to buy a publishing house to publish her first book, went on Oprah. It got big, and then it got published by this other publishing house. But it's such a example you share of, I did the first runway model with plus size models, and once people see it's possible, once people see a model for it, right, a way it can look, oh wow, that works, we didn't know it worked, okay. And it's so important, I think, to take those risks as paradigm changers, right? To say, I get that nobody's done this before, but to follow my gut, my spirit, my higher power, I'm getting a sense this is what I meant to do. I'm curious. My partner works for the biggest publisher in the U.S., Meredith, which publishes People magazine and everything. He was telling me about a couple years ago, he went to the ANAs, the American National Advertisers Association. It's the big conference with all the chief marketing officers from the big companies. And the chief brand officer from Procter and Gamble, which is, arguably the biggest, if not one of the biggest household brands, right? Tide, Charmin, fill in the blank. Mark Pritchard, he came in and he had worked with the ANAs, and he said, hey, we are doing an awful job of representing the women who buy our products. And we need to change it. And they started something called the See Her campaign, which was about representing women of different colors, different sizes, different ages, to have it be more representative of the people who actually buy the products. They started a GEM certification, gender equity metric, and you could be a GEM certified advertiser. And then the next year they came out with See All, which was including transgendered people and queer people, and also, so I'm curious what you've seen over the last decade of doing this. What's changed?
Okay. When in 2010, 11, 12, my first encounter with working with a model who was going through her transition. She was, at the time, she was an aspiring model. She's gone on to do a lot of film work now, and Nicole, and she's, really made a name for herself. But I remember when she came, they weren't really around. Nicole was the only person that I knew. You never really, in terms of like magazines or editorial or runway shows, you never saw it. It wasn't seen at all. They were like transgender. They were in a world of their own. They weren't into, like, I'm talking about in the fashion industry, they weren't really seen. How has things changed now? There are a lot more transgender models that are on the runway, featured in magazines, and on cover of magazines. So things are stuck, and also that there are more modeling agencies, I'm talking about in the UK, that are now signing them.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been a long process, but it's now starting to happen. And I feel that it's important once again that I personally don't agree with labels. How I see it is a model's a model, whether they're trans, whether they're plus, whether they're disabled. Don't add, I don't believe they should be plus size model. I just think model and the name. Um, it's obvious by their physical appearance what they are without putting a label to it. Because one of the reasons why I say that is, let's go with the plus size industry, that in the UK, a woman that is a size 10 to 12, I don't know what it is in America, but in the UK, that is small, is considered by the fashion industry, by the modeling agencies, by the designers to be considered plus size. You think of this, you've got a 16 to an 18-year-old girl that's at a healthy weight, BMI's healthy. She goes to the agency and they say to her, you got to lose weight, you're plus size. I mean, how damaging is that? A lot of young girls nowadays, to have that said to them, to me, it needs to change. For me, it needs to change. You know, I think that I don't agree with all these labels, plus and everything. I just think that, it's wrong. I think that they need to change their demographics of what a model should look like, because before they wanted the model to be like 5'11", size 6, 6 to 8, very tiny. I mean, look at a person that is, say, 5'11", 6 foot, and being very skinny. They're skin and bones. It's not healthy. Whereas now, a lot of the agencies do have a plus, do take on plus size model, but what they show as plus size models are women that are a size, I would say, 12 to 14, and the 16 to 18, there are a few, but you don't really see a lot of them. Hence why your lovely model in the States, I absolutely love her, Tess Holiday. That's why she causes huge controversy here in the UK because of what people are saying about her size and everything like that. So yeah, I think that there's a lot. And I'm absolutely against height restrictions too. I think if a model has a potential to be a good model, disregard the fact that she's got a disability, disregard the fact she's plus size, disregard the fact that she could be an LP. It's the fact that that person can model the clothes or look great. She looks fabulous in pictures, regardless. And that's the work that we are still continuously trying to do.
Yeah. I'm curious about
The consumers. That's what I'm saying. Represent the consumers. Imagine you as the guy. I mean, once I get on my soapbox, I do go on. Imagine a guy. You go into a shop and you're looking at, say, this lovely suit, and it's on a guy that is 19 to 20, and you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to look as good as this. Why don't they have a mature somebody of 40 plus wearing that suit? He would look just as good. That to me doesn't make sense. You'll take our money, but you won't represent us. Now, I'm about changing it.
I love it. One of the things that I always ask is like, what's the conversation you're here to change? And you just said it so succinctly. You'll take our money, but you won't represent us. And I'm here to change that.
I'm here to change that, because what I challenge the brands with is, for example, if they say to me, I've got, we've got a lot of beautiful male and female models that are over 40. The oldest person I've worked with is 79. And when I send their pictures and say, look, you've got to change it, Jim, change it, they turn around and say to me, oh, Angel, they're gorgeous. One top brand said, oh my God, I hope I'd look like this person when I reach 65. However, Angel, I'm really sorry, they don't meet our demographics. Our demographics are for 18 to 25. And I turned around and said to them, so I said to them, I buy from your store. I'm 59. Are you prepared to refund me my money then? Because I don't fit your demand. No. What we're saying, people can buy from our stores. We don't stop you coming in, any age groups, but to put them on a billboard, to have them on our website, no. And I just think that is hypocrisy. I just think it's wrong. And I think that they really need to think about it.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Tell me about your childhood. Like,
right. Well, my childhood. I grew up in East London. When I was 7 years old, my father died in a tragic accident that left my mum, my dad died when he was 28, my mum was 26, and they just bought their first house. This was 1969 in East London, and my dad was a carpenter. And I've always said that was, for me, a huge turning point in my life. I always say that I think it hit me really badly out of my brother and myself. And my childhood took a downward spiral from there. I didn't grow up in a home that was healthy. I would say that it's a generation. I've come to understand it now that it's a generational thing, how my mum brought us up. And I had to come to terms with it within myself. But it caused me a lot of pain. I didn't grow up with, there wasn't a lot of love. You just did as you were told. You went to church and you followed the rules. And if you didn't follow the rules, there was consequences. And I had a lot of fear as a child. I had a lot of fear, and I was quite sensitive as well. And that wasn't something that my mum knew how to deal with. But it was really difficult. And then I went on, when I had my first child when I was 16, and brought huge shame to the family, was thrown out. And I went from abusive, I was in a women's refuge at the age of 18. I then went on to have a chronic eating disorder. I had relationships with men that were emotionally unavailable, but also there was physical abuse as well. So all these journeys, all these things that I went through, I would say it's the making of the person that I am today. I made a lot. I take responsibility for some of my own actions in my addictions. And it was only until when I got help in dealing with my alcoholism that I'm now over 16 years with sobriety, did I start to work on myself and look at my relationships and to look at my childhood as well, and to not have, I carried a lot of shame for so many years, a lot of negative messages that I was given. I took the negativity out of my home, and they came with me into my relationships. And, I couldn't date a guy that was good because I considered him boring. But if I dated a guy that told me that I was a piece of shit or slapped me around, he was the love of my life. So my psyche, I was pretty messed up by the time I got into rehab. And it was a long journey to get to the place I am today. I spent 15 years, I would say, in therapy, because it took me a long time to get to that place. But I accept myself as I am today. I accept that I have a mental illness in terms of when it comes to having an eating disorder, alcoholism, post-traumatic. I have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and that was due to the violence that I experienced as a kid, and obviously in the abusive relationships. But I have tools today where I learn how to manage it. And I use my own personal experiences to help others. So I do work I help others suffering alcoholics. I help people with dealing with eating disorders. I bring it into mod as well. I help models. I help people that come to us that may still be in an abusive relationship and don't have a way out. And how I help is by relieving them of the shame by sharing my story. Because when I start telling them where I've been and where I am today, they're pretty shocked. So it's not something that I hide from people. I tell people about what I've been through. And when I say I've made peace, I don't have any bad feelings towards my mum and my stepfather. I know that they did the best they could. I know that if they could now, I know they would have done things differently. But you have to forgive, because if you don't, the only person that it hurts, resentment, is something that I cannot carry, because it hurts me, not the other person. So I choose to forgive and move on. I see them as my parents. I see them as people who I love. And the past is the past.
You
And
know,
it's what am I doing today?
yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I look at a lot with my clients is I believe that there is almost a secret, hidden design to our
Yes.
lives. You know, that while we're going through it, we can't see it. We would have never have thought, oh, my eating disorder, growing up in this way, growing up with that childhood, growing up with all these thoughts I had about myself, would all come to play in service to the work I do in my calling.
No. And you know what? If somebody had said to me 20 years ago, Angel, you're going to be head of, you're going to open up a charity and your life is going to change and you're going to get off the that treadmill of distraught. And I mean, when I say I'm lucky to be alive, I mean it. I've taken 5 overdoses, 5. 2 of them, I had to have my stomach pumped. No, really. 2 of them, I had to have my stomach pumped. 5. My body is covered in scars. My arms, there's big slash marks. My wrists. God, I used to think, where is the God? Where is God? Where's the help? And you know what? These scars are a reminder to me of where I have come from. And am I grateful? Hell yes. Has it been painful? Absolutely. But I still say this, it is the making of the person who I am today. A woman that has compassion, a woman that wants to change the world and make it a better place in whatever way possible. I want to be the person that if somebody's out there that's suffering, I want to be that hand that goes out to that person and say, what can I do to support you? Because when I was going through all that stuff, I didn't have family support. I didn't know places that I can go to. And I stumbled a lot, a hell of a lot. And I got you know, I'm very lucky because a lot of people that I know that that were in rehab with me, a lot of them are dead or are out there now in football now because I'm quite lucky.
Well, I would say we are as well. Thank you. And when you say five, five overdoses, it just tells me like something in your spirit said, no, not done with you, not done with this lifetime.
Not ready. Not we're not you're not dying yet. And you know, like I said, I do like to tell my story because people look at me and they think, oh my God, she's got it together. She's so this, so that. Don't get me wrong, darling. There are days when I have my anxiety, I suffer with anxiety where it can come into play. And I know exactly what I know to do. If there are days that I feel like that, I know how to manage it. The most important thing that I need to do for myself is number one, be gentle with myself. Don't criticize myself because I'm having a down day. If I feel to cry, I allow myself to cry because I know crying is a good form of healing. I don't beat myself up for having bad days. But also, what's important is to talk to somebody, say to somebody, even if it's one person, do you know what? I'm having a bad day. I don't feel myself. And I don't know why. And it's okay if you don't know why. Because emotional pain doesn't kill you. Once you go through it and you come out the other side, the next time it hits you, you know that it's not going to last forever. So that's the way I learned to manage my emotional pain.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think you're certainly remembering like, hey, I've been here before. I've gotten through it. I will get through this as well. And what are my tools? Reach out to somebody, be compassionate with myself. All the different tools you build over time, so important. And what I love hearing from you is that you use them. We can learn the tools and not use them, right?
Well, I didn't use the tools. Um, if if say for example, if I was having a really bad day, and how it happens to me is that I find it if I'm having a bad day and I wake up in the morning and my anxiety, my chest is pounding like this, and I feel a bit tearful. What I do, and say I have to go into work, what I do is that when I'm having days like this, I've got people that I can reach out to. I've got a small support network, and I will talk to them, and I will say how I'm feeling, and I will. Once I've done that, and I've shared how I'm feeling, the next step is that I've got to parent myself. I've got to say to myself, okay, you've got to go into work. What you're going to do is don't do too much. Do what you can. If there's something that you can't do today, put it down and do it tomorrow. And that's what I do. I cannot give myself a hard time because I gave myself a hard time for so many years. I can't do it. I cannot do it again. So
I
I
love
have to
that.
be gentle on myself, real
Yeah.
gentle.
What's your vision for the next 10 years of models of diversity and of diversity in the modeling and media world? What's your vision?
My vision is number one. I think what's really big on the chart for me is that I want to see people with disabilities represented, but it's the norm. Just like you'd see a group of people in an editorial shot, but there's somebody in a wheelchair or somebody with a missing limb or somebody that has a stoma or somebody that's got a facial disease. It's just the norm. I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see more diversity in the UK because we are still quite behind in terms of how you guys are in America. It's only recently, since the George Floyd murder, that we're now starting to see Black presenters on TV, and in TV commercials, you'll see more and more Black people being used. But there's still that lack of disability. You're not seeing, it's still a struggle. You still don't see people with disabilities being used in terms of films, TV plays, TV series. It's still really hard. And part of the work that I want to do is that I want to reach out to as many people and it's not, for me, it's about educating them and getting them to see that it's a big business. It's a huge business, and to help them to not give up if they say no, but to keep the communication lines open. And there are a lot of fashion brands that are still saying no to me. However, our communication lines are open. One of them I've been working with, I've been on at them since 2016. Last year, October, I finally got my chance. We did a huge campaign with Misguided. They only wanted one disabled model. They took 4. There was 4 on their advertising campaign. 4. And now what they're doing is now they're using disabled models as influencers. They're now willing to incorporate them in their casting. And if I had accepted their answer, their first answer, we wouldn't be where we are today. So for me, if I get a no, that's okay. My words is, I tell you what, I'll give you a call in 3 months. And they always go, all right, Angel, yeah. I write it in the diary. I go to 3 months' time. I say, remember you said we can have a catch up in 3 months' time? 3 months' time's up when you're free to talk. They know what I'm like. So I'm always pushing. So yeah, those are my dreams, and that people, the consumers, the people that love fashion, the women that go out into the stores, the teenagers, they can go into these stores and they see diversity, because I think it is important as well that we educate our children about our differences, the differences in people with disabilities, and to explain to them and to talk about people of color. I just would like to see us all come together as one. And there's no barriers. And that's Angel. My call.
Angel. I call you the angel of diversity.
Well, you know something, Jeffrey? You know what? I want to try. And when I got asked to do this, for me, it was, there you go again. I gave thanks to my higher power. I said, thank you, because you're giving me a chance to talk about the work I do, and also hopefully your audience get to know about MOD, and they can look us up and see about our work, and the message carries on, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
So that's what I'm about, and hopefully you'll come to the UK and I get to meet you. You come to our office. I'm willing to meet you.
It is absolutely a Kate, Angel. So, models of diversity can be found at modelsofdiversity.org. Is that right, Angel?
Yes, www.modelsofdiversity.org. All is welcome. Even if you're somebody that just like fashion and want to know about the movement, we are here. We welcome you with open arms.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your work. You've got me thinking. I'm curious about some avenues I might be able to open. So I'm going to be in touch about that. And for anybody else that's listening, if you want to support Angel's work, you can go to modelsofdiversity.org. And it is a charity, a registered charity, so you can donate, be a part of that work. And, I love that you've shared so much, Angel, not just about your personal journey, but also about how you've paved this path. I think you're such a model of tenacity with faith. And man, when you put faith and tenacity together, anything's possible. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your heart and soul.
Thank you for having me. And we would also like to share this podcast with our audience, because we've got over 50,000, and I'd like to spread the word about your podcast ourselves. So we'd like to do that for you. And anytime, do come to me. Anything. Even if you hear something that you think, oh, I know that might fit Models of Diversity, we're always here.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. All my love.
Hey there, thanks so much for listening in. If this conversation was powerful, if it stirred your soul or inspired your journey, then be sure to share it with a friend. Just copy and paste the link wherever you're listening to this podcast and text that link right now to a friend that you think would be inspired by this episode. And if this is your first time here, be sure to click that subscribe button over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a rating and review so I can get to know you and your thoughts better. To learn more about the work I do with emerging and established paradigm changers, go to thecourageousmessenger.com. That's all for today. Thanks so much for being here, and I hope to see you in the next episode.